Justin, welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
My first question I have to ask you is, when did you first fall in love with running?
I first fell in love with running when I was a kid, actually, probably like 6, 7 years old. You know, like all kids like to run, but I truly loved running. Like, I just loved the freedom of it and just how I could just, like, run anywhere I wanted. I just liked the feeling that it gave me. So it wasn't something that I got serious about running until really about 2012. I even in high school I had tried out for track, but then I was too afraid because I saw how serious some of the kids were about running. So I went to go try out, but I never actually tried out. I watched from the bleachers and I listened to them call my name to come and try out for practice, and I would go after school every day and just watch. But it wasn't until many years later, like I said, 2012, that I actually took it up and started doing it consistently on my own.
Okay, well, I want to piggyback on what you said about you being afraid to try out for the team. And I know you live in New York City, one of the great cities in the world, but you're a native of Portland, Oregon. And when I think about the state of Oregon, Oregon is prime when it comes to running. I want to touch back on when you said you were afraid to try out for the team. Was it pressure from other kids, or was it parents or family members? Because I know in Oregon, running is serious business.
Running is serious business there, but it wasn't serious to me at the time. And I never even looked at it. I never looked at it through that scope. I guess maybe because I was like a high schooler, and I never really paid much attention when there were marathons in the city. I never paid it any mind. Portland is also big on biking, so biking and running. Running would be number one, and I think biking is a close number two in Portland. And I was into cycling, bicycle riding, like we ride dirt trails and things. So that was actually my love. My number one love at the time was biking. So that's what I grew up doing. But my fear of trying out really had nothing to do with anyone else other than just me not thinking that I was good enough. And, you know, I don't know where that fear came from, because it's not like I knew any of the kids on the team. It's not like there was anyone intimidating. There wasn't anyone saying anything. No one knew that I was going to try out. It was just a decision I made on my own, because I was like, you know what, I like to run. I should try out for track and field and see how I do. I didn't know anything about track. But I talked myself out of it. It was just one of those things that we sometimes do, especially as a kid. I would go back to talk to that Justin then and be like, you better do it. You better just go on and do it and try it out. You'll never know till you try. Not a regret of mine, but I do wonder sometimes what would have happened had I actually tried out.
Well, I tell you what, thank God for second chances. And let's fast forward to the year of 2012 when you finally got your opportunity to run. So tell the audience out there about the year 2012 and what took place in your transformation to becoming familiar with the sport of running.
So it was 2012 that a coworker actually of mine was trying to get me to come out and run with her in Central Park. And she was like, oh, just come. I just run a few miles. I know you run and you're a runner. But see, I have to specify, I was a treadmill runner. I loved and I still love running on the treadmill. I can just go places in my mind and just disappear. Some people, they find it to be monotonous, and, you know, they call it the dreadmill. I actually liked it. And so when she tried to get me to run with her in 2012 in Central Park, I wanted no parts of that, because I was like, no, you have to deal with the weather. You have to deal with bugs. You have to deal with dodging cars. Sometimes you have to deal with other people. And when I run on the treadmill, I don't have to deal with any of that. It's air conditioned. I can go as fast or slow as I want, and I don't have to worry about bumps or potholes or anything like that, or looking to see if, watching my steps. So I figured, why not? But she pressured me into finally running with her, so I did a couple times. And one time we were in the park, and all these people were running. We just came around the bend, and all these people were running, and I was like, where are these people running to? Where are all these people going? And she said, oh, it's probably a race. And I was like, what do you mean a race? And she was like, oh, this is probably, they do a lot of races here in Central Park. I said, really? And then she was like, yeah. I was like, well, I'm faster than a lot of these people. She told me about it, and I decided to sign up for a race. And I kind of got addicted briefly to racing in 2012. I probably did that for about a year, and then I just fell off and went right back to running on the treadmill because I was like, I'll just run on the treadmill. I like the treadmill. And then it was in, I say 2014, the end of 2014 to early 2015 when, for whatever reason, I decided to get back into running outside. Because a friend of mine told me about a Nike group that Nike had a run club, and that they were like, and they give you free water, they give you snacks, and they encourage you. So I went out with the Nike Run Club, and that's what drew me to come out. And it was mass group of people, like over 100 people would meet at the Nike store in Midtown Manhattan, and then we'd run to Central Park every Wednesday. It was just so much fun to just run with a group of people, and it was like we just took over the whole park, and we would just run, and I just loved that feeling. And I love running with groups. It gives you more confidence when you run with other people.
That's why a lot of personal trainers, they always say, and just especially in any type of fitness groups, they always say that it's always better when you do things as a group because you motivate one another, you push yourselves to the limit. So it's definitely very important that you practice fitness in groups. I want to piggyback off to what you said earlier about the training that goes into running in a marathon. Tell the listening audience out there what training is required in order to keep your stamina up for these 26.2-mile races.
If you're going to be running a marathon, diet is important, to be eating the correct foods, and hydration is key. You definitely want to stay hydrated, especially if you're in a hot environment like the summertime, New York City. When you're training, it's hot. You usually start training about 3 months before the marathon, three and a half months before. You start out with short runs, if you've never run at all, you're really going to start out running I would start with running 2 to 3 miles at a time. But if you've been running a little bit, then you want to start out and just maybe do a 5-mile run. You want to do one long run a week, and you always want to keep building it up to run more and more. As you're approaching the marathon each week, you should be running a few more miles than you did the previous week. So you might start with 5, then the next week you're doing 8, and then the next week maybe 10 and 12 and so forth. You never run the full 26.2 while training. The most I think you should ever do is between 22 and 24. That's the most you should ever run when you're training. But you definitely have to carb up. Pasta is a good thing, especially before a race. You would eat pasta is a good carb to eat before your race. Some people like to use gel packs when they're running to keep them in a little pouch for energy boost. I don't use gel packs. When I ran in 2015, I was so excited to run the Portland Marathon that I didn't eat anything. I ate nothing.
Oh wow! Did you you didn't suffer for that, did you?
I feel like I would have performed better had I eaten something. It wasn't an intentional thing. It was just one of those things that I just completely forgot about. I knew I didn't want to drink anything because I didn't want to have to pee during the marathon. I didn't want to have to use the restroom. I didn't want to have to take the time out to run off to a porta potty. I wanted to be able to just run the whole 26.2 without stopping. And that's another reason why the night before I made sure I didn't really eat too late. I made sure I ate early so that if I did have to use the restroom, it would be before the race. But I did suffer because it was about mile 7. When I got to mile 7, my stomach was talking to other people. My stomach was asking other runners for snacks. It was trying to remind me that that I hadn't eaten anything. So yeah, when my stomach was growling at mile 7, I was like, "Oh, that's right." It just dawned on me. I didn't eat anything. Wow. And I was like, I can't believe that. But there are, fluid stations at every mile. There's also, I think once you get past about 10 miles, there are also people that have gel packs. Some people have bananas, which is good. The potassium helps and helps you stop from cramping because I started to cramp up about mile 17, but the banana helps to prevent cramping. And then you also sometimes need sugar because you're losing a lot of salt as well as from your running. So there was a lot of kids with gummy bears in a little cup, and you just take the little gummy bear cup. So it's something. Some fluid stations have Gatorade, and they also have water. You can stay hydrated throughout the race.
I want to get to the benefits of running because we know that running is great for the cardiovascular system, but just in your opinion, just tell the audience out there, what are the benefits of running and how can they incorporate it into their fitness plan?
Anyone can really do running, and I know a lot of people like to say, "Oh, I can't run." But when they see us running outside, they're like, "Oh, I would run if I could." Even if running doesn't mean you have to be running at a vigorous, heart racing pace. Running could be the same as jogging, like a light jog, or a brisk. If you're a walker, to walk briskly. It doesn't matter how old you are. If you're male or female, you have 2 feet, use them. And, it gives you a confidence boost just from the exercise itself. It's like, I've never known anyone to go for a run or a jog. And it doesn't matter if you're running and jogging as well. Some people feel like they're defeated if they went out, they decided to go running, but they had to walk a little bit. Hey, you're out there, you're doing something to better yourself and your health. So how on earth could that be a bad thing? It's not. So a lot of people beat themselves over small things that really there's nothing bad about that. Running is also one of the best ways to get rid of fat. I think I read years ago, it could have changed, it always changes every year, but I read years ago that it said the number 1 fat burner was skiing. And I found that to be so interesting that skiing was the number 1 fat burner, but the number 2 was running. So there's also that benefit, and that's actually one of the things that I thought was good. I was like, you have belly fat. Running can help with that. It'll help relieve stress and tension that you might have. There's so many benefits that a lot of people really have no idea. It can cure even depression from a lot of people who it can prevent it, I should say.
Well, that's all helpful. And, I would just want to kind of talk about, I was in my first race, did a 5K with the Louisiana Marathon. And this event happens every year, and it's sanctioned by the USATF. For those of you that don't know what the USATF is, that's the United States Association of Track and Field. And I did my first ever 5K, and I have to tell you, even though a 5K is a 3.1 mile race, it is a lot of fun. And you get a chance to not only challenge yourself physically, but also mentally as well. You get a chance to be with other people because, again, like you said earlier, Justin, you're running in a group. So that's what makes it so much fun, because you're getting a workout. You touched on the benefits of it. You're getting the workout and you're having a lot of fun out there. It's just a great way to have fun and stay fit.
Yeah, people definitely make it fun. I had fun running on my own, but I definitely can say running with other people makes it 10 times better, because you also don't have to. It's not like I said, you don't have to be running at a fast pace. You can be running, if you're going by pace, you could run 10, 11, 12-minute miles. Who cares? You're out there and you're making it happen, and that's all that matters. And then what you would probably want to work on if it becomes something that you're truly interested in is your form, and making sure that you're running correctly so that you don't injure yourself. As far as you don't want to, like, heel striking is not a good thing. I know a lot of people think that when you're running, your heel should hit the ground first because that's the way it is if you were to walk. But actually, it's not. You should be running with the sole of your foot, almost kind of like walking on your tiptoes, but not. But you definitely don't want to be heel striking, because that can cause injury.
Good points that you've made right there. Now, Justin, we know that the Bronx is rich in culture and in history. It's known for being the birthplace of hip hop. But I got to ask you about a running organization that you're a part of called Bronx Soul. Tell the audience about that.
You're right about that. With the Bronx is known for being the birthplace of hip-hop, because it is. Bronx Soul is the running group that I started. It's a running and walking group that I started because a friend of mine who's a teacher here in the Bronx sent me an article that said that the Bronx was the unhealthiest county in New York State. Now, New York State has 62 counties. That means the Bronx was 62nd for 7 years in a row. And I just found that statistic to be crazy. And I was telling her, I was like, is no one going to be doing anything to try to combat this? Is no one going to go out to try to help the people of the Bronx? I mean, I live here and I love it, and I love the people here, but if we're the unhealthiest, then somebody's got to do something to try to help that, to try to combat it. So I was only going to cater to runners that were already running. But in order to try to it's harder to get people who aren't active. But that became my goal, and it still is, and we've been successful with it. So what I decided to do is incorporate some Bronx history, because my friend and I he used to take me around on a lot of Bronx tours, walking tours. He told me no one would be interested in it, but I told him no. I was like, I feel like they would be, and if not, it'll just be me and you running. So we just decided to incorporate Bronx history. I can honestly say we've been combating obesity and asthma rates, and asthma here in the Bronx. And we were actually featured in Runner's World magazine.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Explain to the audience about the fellowship that you did with the New York City Department of Parks and Recreation.
We applied to be a part of a fellowship with Partnerships for Parks, which is under the Parks Department here in New York City. What it is it was a fellowship, and we had to attend one class a month for 6 months, and they teach you how to get your organization together and how to grant write, how to speak to a public figure, how to do elevator pitches, anything you would need to. They try to give you the tools to help your organization thrive, is what its purpose was, and we graduated in it. And actually, through that partnership, we got $550 grant, and we got $900 grant from applying for the actual grant, the capacity fund grant that they offer. It's a great organization here in New York City.
Congratulations to all your success about spreading the importance of running, not just in the Bronx, but also on a worldwide level, to be featured in Runner's World magazine. That's definitely not small potatoes. That's definitely a big accomplishment. So quickly, where can they find you on social media? Where can they find Bronx Soul on social media? And also give us any social media platforms or a website.
Okay. Well, you can find me personally on Instagram at JM as in Mary, ASHIA 17. That's just my personal Instagram page. Bronx Soul is at Bronx, BRONX Soul, SOLE. And we're also on Facebook under Bronx Soul, and we're on Twitter. But I encourage anyone to go on our Facebook page and hit that like button, so we'd appreciate it. Appreciate the love.
Well, let me be the first to say, my brother, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be on the show. And Justin Mache, an avid runner, also member of Bronx Soul, and also spreading the word about the importance of running. Justin, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into the channel. Remember to click like, share, and subscribe. And thank you for watching.